how do you get ready for the investor? And we have something we call an investor summary builder instead of a executive summary. And our experience is that often, you know, you can go online, there's tons of templates out there, and you can fill out these executive summaries. But usually when we look at them, they don't give us the information we want. So we kind of throw them away. We're like, oh my God, this is a waste of time. Why am I reading this? It sounds like motherhood and apple pie.
Usually it involves an elbow, like Chris is like, wake up. Do you want to hear this one? I'm like, oh, I saw the executive summary. He's like, no, we want to go talk to this guy. And I'm like, yeah, I see what you mean. Let's go talk to him. And then you talk to the woman or the man, and you're like, why didn't you tell us any of this? We smelled something good under here, but you didn't put any of that in here.
An example is, suppose you have a startup and you've got some grants and you say, I've got no funding. Well, that's really important, how many grants you've gotten. So we went and recreated an investor summary builder so that hopefully you won't omit that really critical information, because typically the way the process works is you send an investor summary to somebody or an executive summary, and that's the beginning of the due diligence process. They're going to either say, I'm interested in this, or no. And so you really have to get it right to begin with. So the purpose is to find investors who are aligned with your investment thesis. For instance, if you're an angel, if you're seeking seed money, some venture capitalists won't do seed funding. So there's no point trying to pitch them. Others, for instance, are only aligned, like some people will not do therapeutics. They won't invest in drugs. Well, if you're a drug company, then why talk to them? And the other thing is that they want to make sure the risk reward is the right balance. And this happens all the time. If you think your company is worth $100 million and you have no revenue, you probably aren't going to get funded. You have to get the risk reward in the right ratio. So we focus on that. And the main purpose is just to begin the process so that you can actually pitch them that pitch deck that you guys are working on. So this is the investor summary builder outline that we've created. It takes about 60 minutes. There's 10 sections. I know you guys have a link to it, and you're welcome to use it as much as you want. It's going to be up there for at least half a year. You can create multiple versions for different opportunities that you have. So for instance, suppose you've raised a round and then you want to have another round. You maybe have a convertible note for $1 million, and then you decided in a few months you need to raise a Series A of $5 million. Well, you need two different summaries. So this is available for you. So what we'd like to do, this is the output, by the way. This is a one-page PDF that you can generate on your own. So what we're ready now is to answer any questions from people who have started that process of filling out the investor summary. Are there any questions to start?
Okay, yeah, so Chip had a question about the executive summary and how is it different from a tear sheet?
Great question. So it's different in a couple of cases. So first of all, it forces you to write the milestones down. Often people invest in an executive summary don't write their milestones that are value inflection points, number one. Number two,
Can you repeat Maggie's questions? We're having a really hard time hearing her.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So the question was, what's the difference between a tear sheet and an investor summary? The difference between an executive summary and a tear sheet is that an investor summary will have the milestones, will have a focus on what the strategic competitive advantage is, and will have an enterprise value increase. The most important thing that an investor wants in an investor summary is, tell me how you're going to take my money and how you're going to increase the value of the company. No tear sheet has that, and that's the difference that we're adding into it. The next question?
While she's doing those, Chris, let's just hammer through real quick the due diligence stuff.
Okay.
And then we can gather all questions. I was just looking at time.
Yeah, that's a good point, Doug. You want to go through this, Doug?
Sure. Last thing we want to talk about, and this is really, it's 2 minutes and then it's really more of a resource. So one of the biggest challenges that but Chris and I have found more than 1 million times is founders get started, they start off to the races, they're running like crazy, and then they finally get to the big day, they're ready to take money, and the investor says, "Can I see your deal room?" And the entrepreneur goes, deer in the headlights, what is he talking about, deal room? And even if he knows, a lot of entrepreneurs, they aren't ready. They spend 3 weeks trying to dig up docs. They look unprofessional, and it's a nightmare. So our message today is everything you're creating in your deck, in your investor summary, everything you're doing right now goes in your deal room, and you should start building it now. It sounds trivial. It doesn't sound like much. All it takes is a Dropbox, a secure Google Drive, anything to start filing your stuff in. And this is what investors are going to want to need. Now, what is it and what does it mean? It's going to build trust and credibility. Due diligence is incredibly hard to do in general. So one of the biggest challenges in getting money from angel groups in general is just to get somebody to do the due diligence on the deal oftentimes. And what you want to do is just start knocking down barriers for investors to give excuses like, oh yeah, we're supposed to do due diligence, but this company's deal room is a disaster or they didn't have one. Well, you won't have that excuse. And so the message and takeaway is start it now, get it done now, and build it as you build your business so you're always ready to take the money when they're ready to give it to you. There's available on our website, there's a PDF. It's nothing special, but it's a really good list to start with. It gives you a checklist. You can fill it in, download it. It's happy to help you guys out. There's a lot of the software out there comes with them built in if you wind up doing it. In the beginning, it's not necessary. Just find yourself something that's secure, that you can control access to, and that you can file all your stuff away, and just stay organized from the beginning. I really can't emphasize enough how much time and money and opportunity cost seasoned experience, awesome businesses experience because they just aren't ready with these little things. So that, and do all the hard things first. If there's one thing that you remember from us tonight, it's you have to do the hard things first. That's it. So Chris and I also, and this comes from the heart, we have a lot of respect for people who do this. And no matter what people say, this really is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. And for all of that, we salute everyone out there for trying. So, questions?
Somebody asked along the way, what is a deal room?
I answered it in the chat too, but go ahead.
A deal room is, think of it as a virtual data room where every investor is going to want to see every contract, verify your key customers. They're going to see your leases, everything financial. Think about just like getting a mortgage. When you go to apply for a mortgage, the bank asks you for a seemingly obnoxiously longer list of documents. It's the same thing with your company. They're going to want to see everything. And that's why it's so important to keep it organized.
So they want to see things like articles of incorporation, your investor summary, your pitch deck, resumes of your key executive team.
Executive contracts, key employee contracts, key customer contracts, vendor agreements.
Patents.
Patents. You say you have a patent, you better have the patent and you better have the full patent and the patent attorney's bill paid in that folder. All your registrations, are you in compliance? If you have a compliance or regulatory driven business, you better have all those compliance and reg docs in those folders and organized.
And what we have on the website is a checklist of all the different things we're talking about. We just mentioned a couple of them. The checklist goes for pages and pages. So it's a lot of work, but if you think about, like Doug talked about buying a house and how much paperwork there is, you're asking somebody essentially to buy your company, a chunk of your company, a portion of your company. And so think about how much information they're going to want before somebody invests $100,000 or $1 million into your business.
The checklist for the deal rooms on our website, it's on this PDF, free download also. just saw a question.
And we'll have a section later on due diligence, on preparing for due diligence, and we'll give you some more examples too. So, but if you just think of it as like a hard drive that you can give people access to, or Dropbox, or even Google Drive. Dropbox is a little bit safer probably.
Yep.
But it's just that, like a very organized way that you can share all of your documents quickly so that they can go in and take a look for themselves.
Right. And not everybody you want to control access to it so that you're only giving access to people who, you're contemplating doing a deal with. That's usually the point at which people are willing to sign NDAs. When up to that point, probably not. No investors are signing NDAs until they're looking at stuff that's in your deal room.
There's a question about when to update it. The answer is every time you create or sign or have a document that would go in it, put it there. So it should just be part of your file system. Did you just sign another contract? Put it in your deal room. One of our clients, we helped reorganize their accounting system and just get it cleaned up. And one of the big deals was, look, when you sign a contract, put it in the deal room. When you have a vendor agreement, a lease, just make a copy and put it in the deal room. So that's the answer every time you create something.
And the other thing is to make it easy to navigate. Trying to make it easy for somebody to give you money. So
right.
Keep that in your mind as you're organized. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, that kind of wraps things up for tonight.